We have had enough of our men enslaved, our women raped, wagons loaded with severed heads of our people, the sale of chained captives, the mockery of our religion. We shall not stop until we succeed in expelling the enemy from Europe. Free Europe from Islam.
Free Europe from Islam! Free Europe from Islam! Free Europe from Islam!
Today in history, on July 22, 1456, the West scored one of its greatest victories against Islam, and in so doing inaugurated the ringing of church bells at noon. 1 month earlier, in late June 1456, Sultan Muhammad II's massive Ottoman army, the same that had conquered Constantinople 3 years earlier, reached the strategic fortress city of Belgrade. Located at the confluence of the Danube and Sava rivers, the city stood as the gatekeeper of Christendom's heartland. Both Muslims and Christians understood the stakes. If Belgrade fell, Hungary and much of Europe could easily soon follow. Muhammad encircled the city by land and river. His camp, sprawling across the headland, turned the landward approach into a sea of Turkish tents. From the water, 60 galleys and 150 smaller warships choked the fortress. Many vessels were chained together, forming a wall against any Christian relief attempts. On July 4th, the anniversary of Saladin's victory over the Crusaders at Hattin in 1187, a bad omen for Belgrade, Muhammad ordered his artillery to begin its relentless bombardment. The thunder of cannon echoed for 100 miles. And after 12 days, gaping breaches appeared in the city walls.
I already conquered Constantinople 3 years ago. Now I vow to take Belgrade, then Buda and the whole of Hungary. Nothing can stop me.
Meanwhile, John Hunyadi, the seasoned Hungarian general and veteran of battles against the Turks, was preparing his relief force. His professional army was small, outnumbered by Muhammad's elite guard alone. Yet swelling his ranks were tens of thousands of peasant crusaders, inspired by the fiery Franciscan friar, John of Capistrano. These were not professional soldiers, but common folk, farmers, laborers, and beggars, drawn to the cause of Christ with fervor. As one chronicler observed,
"The world has turned upside down. The lowliest of the low are the ones now defending Christendom."
Aeneas Sylvius, the future Pope Pius II, described this unlikely multitude.
From the depths of Europe they came, barefoot, ragged, unshaven, each holding aloft a crude cross of wood or iron, crying not for riches or land, but for vengeance against the enemies of Christ.
Though Hunyadi doubted their effectiveness, there was no time to hesitate. On the night of July 14th, the relief force launched its desperate mission. Along the Danube, Hunyadi's makeshift flotilla moved toward Belgrade, while Capistrano and his peasant army advanced by land. As they approached the Ottoman naval blockade, cries of "Jesus! Jesus!" rang out, and the Christian ships slammed into the chained Muslim vessels. From within Belgrade, the defenders joined the fray, sending their own ships to break the line. A savage river battle erupted, lasting 5 bloody hours. The Christians ultimately shattered the Ottoman blockade. Several large Muslim galleys sank, others were captured, and the rest burned by Muhammad himself to prevent their seizure. The Danube was now in Christian hands. Supplies, reinforcements, and morale surged into the battered city. Yet the siege intensified. Ottoman cannons, positioned closer than ever, unleashed all hell on Belgrade. By July 21st, much of the city's defenses lay in ruins. But the real trial was only beginning. Inside the city, Hunyadi found the garrison demoralized. He rallied them with a fierce exhortation.
What fear you? Is this the first time you have seen the Turks? Are not these the very same we have so often put to flight, and who have sometimes put us to flight also? Why should their familiar aspect disturb you now? Be of stout heart. Put your trust in Christ. Did he not die for us? And should we then account it a hardship to die for him?
Capistrano added his own fire to the defenders, crying,
He who dies today for the cause of the cross shall wear a martyr's crown in heaven. Let not one of us be found lukewarm.
At dawn on July 21st, the Sultan gave the order for the final assault.
Allahu Akbar! Attack!
Drums thundered, kettle drums boomed, and the Janissaries, elite shock troops of Islam, charged the breaches shouting, Allahu Akbar. Promised paradise and virgins whether they lived or died, they poured into the seemingly abandoned citadel, but it was a trap. Hunyadi had concealed his men in rubble and alleys. When the signal was given, the defenders burst forth. Capistrano's peasant crusaders descended from the walls. The Turks, caught between inner and outer defenses, were ambushed from all sides. Street by street, tower by tower, a brutal melee unfolded. Though outnumbered and poorly armed, the Christians fought with desperate fervor. Hunyadi himself fought in the thick of the fray. Women joined the defense. One legendary moment saw a Christian knight, Titus Dugovic, embrace a Turk, attempting to plant the Islamic crescent on a tower and hurl both of them from the parapet to their deaths. Still, the Turks kept coming. Arrows darkened the skies. Cries and chants mingled in death. The defenders, pushed to the brink, made a final stand. Atop a watchtower, Capistrano, now 70 years old, held the cross aloft and cried out,
O Jesus, where are thy tender mercies which thou hast shown to us of old? O come and aid us, and tarry not. Save, O save thy redeemed, lest the heathen say, Where now is their God?
Then the Christians unleashed fire. They hurled pitch, tar, burning wood, and sulfur onto the massed Turks in the ditches and scaling the walls. Flames engulfed hundreds, then thousands. Panic spread through the Ottoman ranks. Screaming, some leapt from walls into fire. Others were cut down trying to flee. Tagliacocius, who witnessed the scene, recalled,
None could flee from the face of the fire. All who were in the ditches, the multitude whereof no man can number, were consumed. Not one of them remained alive.
A Turkish chronicler bitterly noted,
They made a furnace of the battlefield, turning the flames of hell against the warriors of the Prophet. 1,000 Janissaries fell in fire and smoke, and the smoke of their martyrdom rose to the heavens.
As dawn broke on July 22nd, the battlefield was a charred graveyard. Ottoman corpses filled the breaches, ditches, and approaches. The Sultan's elite guard was annihilated. Still, Hunyadi kept his men alert. Another attack was expected.
The Turk is never more dangerous than when he is in difficulties.
He recalled bitter lessons from earlier battles he had lost against the Turks at Varna and Kosovo. That afternoon, an unexpected chain of events sealed the siege's end. A small band of peasant crusaders, ignoring orders, clashed with Turkish scouts. The skirmish escalated as more crusaders joined. Even Capistrano, unable to restrain the mob, was swept into the tide, exclaiming,
The Lord who made the beginning will take care of the finish.
Seeing the movement, Hunyadi and his core troops surged into battle. The full Christian host poured out of Belgrade's shattered walls and met the enemy in open battle. Despite the chaos, their momentum was unstoppable. In the melee, even Sultan Muhammad was seen fighting, swinging a jewel-encrusted scimitar, yet his presence could not halt the unraveling. When Christians captured Ottoman cannons and turned them on the Turks, panic became contagion. The Janissaries, battle-hardened, fanatical, began to break. The Sultan flew into a rage, threatening to impale their commander, Hassan Beg. Hassan, in despair, charged the enemy and was hacked to pieces. Now the Ottoman line collapsed. Muhammad, wounded and furious, was finally convinced to retreat. Dragging his wounded body and shattered pride, he fled, pursued for 8 miles by Christian troops. Once confident of subjugating Hungary, he now limped back to Adrianople in disgrace. There, enraged, he ordered the execution of units that had fled Belgrade first. When all was said and done, and according to contemporary sources, some 50,000 Ottomans dead. An additional 300 cannons and 27 warships were lost. For Christendom, it was an astonishing victory. In a letter to his absentee king, Hunyadi wrote, "Never before has a Turkish sultan been so ruinously defeated." All across Europe, from Venice to Oxford, church bells rang and bonfires blazed. Pope Calixtus III, overjoyed, established a new tradition, daily ringing of church bells at noon, a practice that survives to this day, including in some Protestant churches, though few of any denomination remember its origin. The Pope, in a letter to Christian princes, declared, "God himself hath shown his favor to the cross and turned back the armies of the infidel. Let no prince of Christendom henceforth excuse cowardice, for even peasants with pikes and faith have triumphed over the sword of the Saracen." It was, as one observer put it, a triumph of the lowly. The peasants of Europe, long thought helpless against the Ottoman tide, had reversed the fate of nations. Never in history had such a horde of beggars and serfs overcome the most feared army in the world, one German chronicler wrote. Surely the finger of God was upon them. But celebration quickly turned to mourning. Plague had broken out in the wake of the siege. On August 11th, John Hunyadi, the warrior who had held the line for Christian Europe, died in Semlin. Sensing death, he insisted on being carried to church for his final communion. "It is not meet that the master should come to his servant," he said. "It is for the servant to go and seek his Lord." He died shortly after receiving the Eucharist. 10 weeks later, Capistrano also died. The double loss stunned Europe. As one chronicler put it, the whole world was deeply disturbed by the death of the one upon whom the hopes of freedom and peace of southeastern Europe had rested. Even Jan Długosz, the often critical Polish chronicler, admitted that Hunyadi's death was detrimental not only to Hungary, but to the entire Christian world. There was no one else among the Hungarian princes and noblemen to lead the struggle against the Ottomans with the same enthusiasm. The siege of Belgrade was not merely a military clash, it was a civilizational confrontation. The armies of Islam, marching under the banner of jihad, met the remnants of Christendom in a last-ditch defense. And despite all the odds, it was the cross, not the crescent, that prevailed.